Hello and welcome to the first official episode of We Are the Pride. I hope you watched the pilot episode about the grand final and enjoyed it. Today, I've got Alicia on board. She's another of my fellow admins in the Brisbane Lions supporter group on Facebook, and she's a resident trade and draft expert and probably one of the best in the business for knowing about all that sort of stuff. So we're going to talk about the free agency and trade period, which is just underway, and a little bit about the draft, coaching situation going forward, and mention the retirements and any list changes that we see happening at the club. So yeah, keep watching and I hope you enjoy. All right, so key dates for the trade period, free agency, and the draft. What are we looking at with that?
So people may have seen that free agency period open today, and there was a couple of players that moved, not from the Brisbane Lions, and so that's for restricted free agents or unrestricted free agents. So those are players that are not in the highest earners at their club, that have been delisted previously or have served a certain amount of service at their club. The main action starts on Monday, October 9. That's when the trade period commences, and it runs until October 18. So they try to keep a lot of the most exciting trades probably to the end. They usually live stream it, and it runs until 7:30 p.m. so they can make get some views.
Yeah, get the ratings up.
And make it entertaining. Yeah, exactly.
And
so that's
sorry, go on.
Yeah, so that's probably the most, I guess we'll have a bit more excitement starting next week.
Yeah, and we get about a week and a half of listening to trade radio where they talk about absolutely nothing.
Yes, it is fascinating how they're able to fill up the time.
Yeah, and all their hypothetical trades. We'll miss Matty Rendell this year doing his big booming trades, the mega trades that never happen, and they're never going to happen, but they were always interesting and got people talking.
Yeah.
So with his passing, we'll miss out on that. I'm sure someone else will take up the mantle. So the draft, when does that happen?
So the AFL draft is on Monday, the 20th of November. That's just the first round. And then they have the second round the following night, Tuesday, November 21. And then the day after that, they have the preseason draft and the rookie draft for anyone not eligible for the main draft, or I guess that were passed over and want to have a second chance.
And that does that include the delisted free agents, or do they go in just with the normal free agency period?
I think delisted free agents can be part of the rookie draft. Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, like contract statuses, where do we stand with out of contract guys at the moment? I don't think we've got too many, have we?
Not really. So this year we out of contract this year we've got Blake Coleman, Darryl McDowell White Jr., Dane Zorko, the Barometer, Beast Mode, and Tom Fullerton, who has already requested a trade to Melbourne today.
Yeah, and Carter Michael as well, is that right?
I believe Carter Michael is actually 2024.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure on that. Someone did ask me about him today, so I wasn't 100% sure on where he stands. So there was a bit of talk from Danny Daly today about Dane Zorko. And yep. I've heard a few little whispers that they'll put him on for one more year and probably playing for 12 to 14 home and away games and have him primed for a final series. Have you heard anything from up there in the media up your way?
Not really. I feel like in the media it's pretty much a given that he'll go on.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess just probably 1 year.
He did say at the family day at Brunswick Street on Sunday that he was looking at going on for another year. And I did
Okay.
see Fagan clapping in the background when he said that, so I'm assuming that that's pretty good sign.
Yeah, I mean, this year he's still shown how valuable he is to our team.
Yeah, I think.
I think
Go on, sorry.
I was going to say I think we would really miss his creativity
Yeah, I think
once he retires.
it all shows that he's got the speed as well and the speed of mind to move the ball on quickly and play on quickly as well,
Yes.
which I think some of our younger guys are still developing that, which
Yes.
is good. Probably didn't have the greatest grand final game, but the rest of his final series was pretty good, I thought.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he was pretty good.
Yeah, so Dev Robertson's now signed on for another 2 years. That's good.
That's great news.
Yeah, he knocked back the Eagles. Kai Lohman knocked back reportedly about 3 Victorian clubs to stay. I think.
Yeah, that was pretty exciting.
Yeah, I think with Lincoln McCarthy now sort of getting north of 30, Lohman might start getting a few more games in that role. And like McCarthy's had a couple of soft tissues in the last sort of 4 to 5 weeks as well.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually looked pretty sore on Sunday after the day after the grand final as well. So it could be a good sign for Lohman. So Danny Daly had a bit of a talk in the media today about Reece Matheson and said that he's potentially exploring his options. I know he did last year and didn't get much interest.
Yes.
Um,
I think I wouldn't be surprised to see him try to get a go at somewhere like Gold Coast Suns, because I know he and his family are pretty settled in southeast Queensland.
yeah. Yeah. I know his parents moved up there a couple of years ago, I think, sort of during or just after the COVID lockdowns.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but yeah, look, I mean, he'd be pretty crazy to not want to explore what else is out there and see if he can find a gig somewhere else, maybe with a, if not the Suns, maybe a couple of years out of North Melbourne or somewhere like that, one of those developing clubs. Maybe even maybe even the Eagles could be looking for a couple of bigger bodied midfielders as well to help their younger guys develop. And you wouldn't begrudge him to sort of take some opportunities if you can get them.
No, I actually feel like I would be disappointed if he didn't try to go somewhere else, because I don't see him playing senior footy with the Lions.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. So I want to see him, be more valued somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm sure he loves the place and loves everybody and they all love him, but his job is playing football, and he's obviously, if he's just going to be on a rookie contract playing VFL, that's not going to be enough. So hopefully he finds what he's looking for and gets to play some senior football somewhere. Just not well against us, of course.
Yes.
We don't want to see him doing a Benny Keys, who seems to save his best for us.
Yeah.
I've heard a few little whispers that Noah Answorth, Kalen Lane, and Jackson Pryor are still getting a bit of interest from their home states.
Okay.
Answorth and Kalen Lane not really getting much of a look in at all with the senior team. I don't know how long Kalen Lane's contracted for. I think we had him. When have we got him? The year before last in the rookie draft, the mid-year draft, was it?
Yeah. So he's been on the rookie list for a few years, and he's out of contract at the end of next year.
Yeah.
So they would need to be upgrading him to the senior list by then.
Yeah, because you can only have, 3 years?
Yeah, except for in the pandemic, there's a few players that were, they got an exemption to be on the rookie list for 4 years. The AFL did, just because it affected their development.
Yeah, because there was no reserves comp during the first year, was there?
No. So there's a few players sort of hanging around the competition that have been on rookie lists for longer, but that's sort of the exception.
Yeah, and we did get an exception for, I think it was Keen Hanley a few years ago as well, for whatever reason. I can't remember what the reason was, but so there's
Yeah, I think
precedent there.
Yeah.
And yeah, like Pryor, I reckon he's pretty set to stay. He's had some opportunities now and has shown that he can play at the senior level with us.
Yeah.
Where he fits in is a bit of an interesting story, really, because I think they try and play him off halfback or on a wing. But there's a lot of guys in those positions, a lot of competition, so that's probably holding him out. But I mean, look, you don't know what the Eagles are going to throw at people during this trade period, I guess.
Yeah. Well, they may be getting a bit desperate considering they've missed out on Dev.
Yeah.
They would want to be bringing in someone to, I guess, bring hope to their supporters.
Yeah. And Kalen Lane, like I sort of heard a couple of months ago that they were looking at him potentially. They obviously need a ruckman. Bailey Williams did it for him this year, and he's actually like a key forward. He did pretty well though, but now that they've sewn up Matt Flynn as a free agent, they're probably not going to be looking elsewhere. Maybe like they drafted, can't think of the guy's name, but they drafted a ruckman last year as well. So maybe Kalen will hang around with us for a little bit longer. I did actually see him play a VFL game down in Melbourne during the year, and he looked pretty good. He's an absolute beast of a man in size too. Him and Henry Smith, they're huge. So hopefully it's going to be hard for them to get opportunities with the big Odo and Darcy Ford, I guess, in front of him as well. But excuse me, it's good to have those guys on the list though if we do need them. And with Tom Fullerton now potentially going to Melbourne, I guess that could present some backup opportunities if one of the big forwards or the big O does get an injury, which obviously we don't want to happen, but it's football, it's contact sport, it happens.
Yeah, I think considering Darcy Fort had other options earlier this year and he re-signed with the Lions is pretty exciting. It's good to have someone that will really contribute to the team if Big O was to go out due to an injury, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think 40 has shown the times that he's had to take on the number one rock role that he's been pretty good. He's fine. And like living down in Geelong, I saw him play a bit of VFL for the Cats. And when they actually played him in the ruck rather than just as a key forward, he really stood up tall. So I think he's next in line if Big O does have an injury or suspension or anything like that. And yeah, like you said, he knocked back. I think Port Adelaide showed some interest in him at one point. But yeah, he signed on, so that's good. We've locked him in. The other guy I'm sort of curious about, and I did try and pick his brain a little bit on Sunday, and he wouldn't have a bar of it, is Jared Lyons. I know he's contracted.
Yeah, he's contracted for next year.
Yeah, but you know, is he going to be happy being the sub every week? I don't think he's going to be the sub every week next year. And is he going to be happy playing VFL footy every other week? I guess that's the thing. I know he got himself on the ground late in the grand final, but yeah, you don't want to be playing 5 minutes of footy every couple of weeks. So maybe he could potentially be an option to go somewhere else, and we could get some, I guess, a bit of some draft picks, probably higher end draft picks for him. Maybe if that comes down to it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you. He is too good a player to be in the reserves, but I'm not quite sure how he fits into our team going forward, which is so weird to say considering how important he was to our team not that long ago.
Yeah.
But for him, it's just about finding the right, spot for him.
I think
and it may be at a different team.
Yeah, I think Dunkley coming in and offering that extra defensive sort of aspect to the midfield has made it hard for Lions to cement a spot back in the team.
Mm.
And look, he's not the best defensive runner out there. I think he would probably be the first to admit that. And he's probably not the speediest guy out there either. But yeah, it all depends on what he, I guess, what he wants out of himself. Whether he's happy just to stay in at the club and win another VFL best and fairest, because he probably would do that, I would assume, if he
Mm.
stayed. Um, yeah, hopefully the curse of the what's it, the Neville Fallon Award, is that what it's called? Is that the
Yeah,
results?
there is. Yeah.
Hopefully that doesn't get to him. I
Well,
think Big O's the only guy who's beaten that curse in the last few years.
yeah.
You see the guys go up and get their award at the club champion night, and you look at him and you know, oh no, look, he's not going to be here next year. You can tell he's not real happy, even though he's just won a trophy. So hopefully,
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't actually watch the club championship the other night. I had to work, so I don't know how that went down. But um, yeah, I guess we'll just have time. Will have to tell us and see what happens with that.
Mm. It's exciting though that we have a few sort of possible moving pieces in the trade period, because otherwise it does seem like it's kind of boring from a Lions perspective.
Yeah, we've been pretty active in the last, say, 4 or 5 years, but I don't think we'll be as active, or I don't think we'll be getting any last minute big names in. I don't think we've got the money to bring anyone in on big dollars and long term deals like we have with, say, Dunkley and Lockie Neal a few years back and a few other guys. But I
Yeah.
think just a few little moving parts just to fine tune the team a little bit. There's a bit of talk around about potentially finding another small defender who's like a bit more of a lockdown than, say, McKenna and Coleman are.
Mm-hmm.
Where that person would fit in, because you've obviously got Motti and Star stand there as well as their sort of mid to small defenders. So whether we do pursue someone or just try and develop someone that we've got, I can't even think who we've had as a small defender in the VFL this year. I don't think I've watched enough games. They always seem to fall when I've got other things on. But yeah, so I guess guys that we're potentially got coming in, Tom Duday from the Crows has nominated us as his preferred destination.
If he's a restricted free agent, he must be earning on a fair bit of coin at the Crows.
I'd say he probably would have been. He was the club captain at one stage recently, like maybe a year or two ago. And he's probably only around about the same age as, I'm trying to think, I saw him play Vic Country under 18s with McCluggage and Berry, so he's probably around about that 25 sort of age group, isn't that's about where they are, 24, 25. So I know he's definitely a free agent of some sort. And a few people were hopeful that he'd announce, or we'd be able to lodge some paperwork today, but I haven't heard anything at this stage, unless you've heard something.
No, I haven't heard anything.
Yeah. Actually, I hadn't even heard of anyone else, but did you say earlier you'd heard of some guys lodging paperwork at other clubs for free agency?
Yeah, so there's two that I saw that have already lodged their paperwork.
Oh yeah, but he's now flagged the Western Bulldogs as his preferred destination. I did see that today.
Okay.
He's another guy coming off an ACL as well, like Duday. So um, we sure like to try and fix guys up, don't we?
I think like he is a guy that he really likes the Saints. It's just that he may be one of those players that just needs that fresh start
Yeah, and it happens. I mean, a new coach comes in, not everyone's going to get along with him, or you just sometimes you spend a bit of time away from the game being injured, and you start to have other perspectives. But yeah, so like for me, the thing with Duday as well is he's going to miss potentially the first half of next season. Um, and I don't know if he's going to give us a lot more than what Ryan Lester or Darcy Gardner already give us. Possibly a little bit more speed, depending on how he pulls up after his Rico. What are your thoughts on Duday, where he fits in?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, it's hard to see. I guess I haven't watched a huge amount of his games, but I can't see how he can keep those boys out of the team.
Yeah, especially I thought both Lester and Gardner played really, really well in the final series, particularly in the prelim and the grand final. I thought they were two of the guys who really stood up for us when a lot of other
Yeah,
guys
I
were
agree.
struggling.
Yeah, they're excellent. But so you go.
No, you're right. You're right. You go.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say, which I'm sure everybody thinks this, but this time last year, or maybe a little bit earlier in the year, we wouldn't have thought Froggy would become such a integral part of the team.
Yeah.
So I guess things can change.
Yeah, all those 1 year contracts and the VFL captaincy and in and out of that team. And yeah, he's pretty resilient. And like you can see why he's been in the leadership group for a lot of years. So the fact that he doesn't give up, he's a fighter. Obviously inspires the culture a lot. And I think he's played career best football this year in particular. And I think with Gardner as well, like he showed in the two finals that he played why he was so highly rated before he had his injuries.
Mm-hmm.
And there has been reportedly some interest from St Kilda and the Western Bulldogs in Gardner, but look, I saw them on a couple of YouTube videos, so I don't know how accurate that is. And
I just thinking of how he was inducted as a life member and his speech, watching him on that, I feel like he wouldn't be moving.
Yeah, and I think we've got him tied up for a couple more years too, haven't we?
At least, yeah, till end of 2025.
Yeah, because was it late last year he re-signed or early this year? I can't remember exactly.
No, it wasn't this year, last year.
Yeah. So yeah, on just getting back to Tom Duday again, I have actually watched a lot of him play because he's from my town and played pretty locally to where I live. Saw a lot of him as a junior, obviously, and when he first broke into the Crows senior team, they were on TV a lot. That was before they got bad. And look, he's definitely a really good footballer, and he's intercept marking and intercept ground balls as well is another thing he's really good at. And he did have a fair bit of speed, obviously more so than say a Coleman or Daniel Rich previously. Obviously he's retired now, but and obviously more than Lester and Gardner as well. But again, as I said, that comes down to how he pulls out of his ACL. And like I feel like Eric Hipwood's a bit of a body of work there where he hasn't had the same explosive pace coming back from his ACL.
Mm.
Obviously, he's quite a bit taller and bigger, so maybe that's a bit of a difference there. But I think if we can get Duday's knees right and he can get himself on the park regularly once he does all his rehab, I think he can be a good addition. And excuse me, I think Leicester and Gardner, like initially I was a bit apprehensive, but then looking, Leicester and Gardner are probably getting up around the late 30 mark in age as well. And Duday's probably around about that 24, 25, like I said earlier. So I guess he does have that up his sleeve and he's got a bit more time to, I guess, force his way in. But I feel he has to force his way in, though. I don't think he just walks in.
Yeah, I agree with you.
It all depends on how Leicester and Gardner go. I mean, they may have shockers next year, which, hopefully that doesn't happen. We don't want that to happen to anyone. But football's a funny game as well. The other guy that's been spoken about was Mabior Chol, but he initially said he wanted to go to South Australia. Now he's saying he wants to go to the Hawks. And I was reading just before we got on the video that there might be some other moves at those two clubs that could cancel that out. Either of those two clubs may not, that being the Crows and the Hawks, may not have the trading power to get him. But I don't see where he'd fit into our lineup as a regular. He sort of plays that Joe Danaher role, if anything, as a key forward and pinch hitting ruckman. What are your thoughts on Mabior Chol?
Yeah, I don't think he really fits into our lineup. He probably wouldn't be playing in the seniors unless Hippie or Joey went down with a injury, which we hope that won't happen.
Yeah.
And I guess he wants to have opportunity to play in the seniors, which is why he's looking at somewhere like Hawthorn. I think he has requested Hawthorn now. They offered him the most security.
Yeah, and they're going to be losing a couple of key position guys. I know Denver, Granger, Barras looks like he's leaving, and there was one other guy I read about during the week. So potentially he has, a bit more opportunity there. We probably should have drafted him initially when he was coming out of the academy, but what's done is done. We missed out. And he seems to keep going to clubs where they've got guys that have basically playing the same role as him and probably a little bit ahead of him. So that's just football, really.
Yeah, I guess he didn't expect when he went to the Suns that they would pick up Levi Casbolt and he would actually play pretty well.
Yeah, I was surprised.
Another year.
He improved his kicking a lot from his Carlton days, that's for sure, which probably didn't help us when we played him the last time. I think he kicked like 3 or 4 against us, maybe.
Yeah.
What can you do? We made the grand final and they didn't, so bad luck to them.
That's right. We made the finals.
Yeah, and they still haven't done that. So they can sit there and gloat about stealing our members and some of our players and whatever. But, yeah, hey, we've played finals more times than them. Yeah, so the other guy that was reportedly showing interest in us or us in him was Nick Caulfield at the Saints, who was a number 8 draft pick a few years ago.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier the coaching situation. We know Jed Adcock's going to North Melbourne now.
Mm-hmm.
There's been no indication. I haven't heard or read anything anywhere about potential replacements. And the talk, there's been a bit of talk in recent weeks that a lot of the assistant coaches are already tied up, which is mainly because West Coast Eagles, not knowing if Simpson was going to be their senior coach, couldn't chase any assistants. I think they wanted to chase Uze at one stage, but couldn't lock him in because they didn't know if Simpson was going to be the head coach or not. And so a lot of the assistant coaches at other clubs got tied up elsewhere rather than wait for the Eagles. And now we may be in a similar position where we may not be able to get like a big name or a guy from like another finals playing club. So maybe we might have to sort of look closer to home, maybe possibly maybe like a Grant Birchall or a Daniel Merritt or even a Brent Staker. Potentially, I can't really see anyone else who's available. Potentially, the Suns may have moved a couple of coaches on, depending on what Hardwick's doing there. But maybe Stuart Dew. I don't know. Would he be a good fit as an assistant coach?
Well, I guess it depends if he wants to step back into an assistant coach role. But I guess one thing with Stuart Dew is that the Suns were a little bit critical of his coaching on match day.
Yep.
In terms of professionalism. That's a little bit of a worry to me.
He does have a relationship with Fagan and Danny Daly from the past, from his Hawthorn days. So I guess, but like Reece Shaw is, I think he's getting appointed at the Suns, and Alan Richardson went to Melbourne for a while, and Brendan Bolton went somewhere. I can't remember where. I think maybe North Melbourne. So I guess, and then you've got Voss when he went to Port Adelaide and Lepich. So, like, there is evidence that some guys can go from being a head coach to an assistant, but it goes down on an individual basis. But, yeah, it'll be interesting to see who we do sort of look at, whether we've already got someone in mind. I don't know how long ago Jed told him he was moving on. Maybe he told him a while back and they've already been in the market, but they couldn't announce it until after the finals.
I don't know if this is Danny Daly telling the truth or not on Trade Radio, but he did say yesterday that they got the call from him after the grand final. Well, Jed let them know after the grand final.
Yeah, look, that's possible too, because I think Clarkson did a bit of a clear out in grand final week, or the week before, maybe prelim week, from memory of some of his guys, and a couple of them decided to move on as well. So that's entirely possible and not within the realms of doubt, I guess. So, yeah, that's something I guess we'll just sit back and wait for an announcement and see what they come up with. They may shuffle the magnets and put one of our other line coaches down back and bring someone else in. Maybe Murray Davis goes down back again, although I feel like he's actually done a reasonably good job turning the forwards into a more strongly defensive unit, and you wouldn't want to mess with that.
Mm.
Yeah. So our draft position, how are we looking for that as far as picks go and that sort of thing? I don't think we got anything in the first round, though, do we? Like somewhere in the mid-20s is our first pick.
Yeah, we're definitely – I don't think we'll be doing much in the draft at all.
Yeah, plus we would probably be doing some pick swaps or maybe player trades for picks, because we do want to have some draft points for next year as well, with Levi Ashcroft potentially coming.
Yeah, so the first we get into the draft is pick 27.
Yeah, and that might get pushed back a few spots as well with conversation picks and that sort of thing.
Okay, so you have 27, 46, 56 and 62.
Yeah, it's not a real good sort of position, I would say. There's going to be some trading going on somewhere along the line. We usually do some interesting pick swaps with Port Adelaide and the Suns every year. There seems to be little deals going on behind closed doors that seem to fall into place for us and help us advantageously.
Yeah.
So, and actually, I was thinking about this the other day. So, going back to when we got Lachie Neale, we traded pick 6 for him to Freo. They then on-traded pick 6 to Melbourne for Jesse Hogan, who at some point after a couple of years, they traded Jesse Hogan to the Giants for pick 50. With pick 50, they picked up Joel Weston, and they just recently delisted him. So we got Lachie Neale for free. So sometimes the deals actually kind of work out, even if we do give up a first rounder. Basically, Freo have got nothing to show for getting that pick 6 from us. Not that anyone can envisage that sort of happening. You would have thought Jesse Hogan going back to his home state would have worked out for him, but he's playing better football where he is now. Just again, I hope he doesn't play well against us in the future.
Yeah.
I think he would have been a bit of a handful had we played them in the grand final, to be honest. I think his final series was really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, oh well. Again, they weren't there, we were, so that's life. Because I'm sure they'll announce a couple of what do they say now? They've chosen not to renew their contract. There's not the listings anymore.
So I think this is just between us. I think my thoughts are that it will be Blake Coleman, Maffo. Those are the two obvious ones because they're out of contract.
Yeah.
Obviously, Fullerton will go. Daryl or DJ. What do they call him? DJ?
That is a very good question, I think. I think they do.
I just full name him.
I've only seen him once, and I didn't hear any of the other players speaking to him after that game. So, yeah, I'm sort of in the dark a bit with that. But I'm assuming that's probably what they call him.
Okay, well, I assume that he will stay because he's Cat B rookie.
Yeah. He seems to have been okay in the VFL as well. I haven't heard any, I guess, sort of anyone criticising him or saying he's not playing that well. Sort of just a few little polite comments about how he's coming along and he's showing some development. So, yeah, I think he's pretty safe. Blake Coleman is an interesting one. Like, he's probably never ever going to play senior football at any AFL club. I don't think he's there for that, though. I think he was initially there to sort of be a companion for Kitty.
Yeah.
I think Kitty's kind of transcended that a bit now and become almost like a leader himself at the club. So Blake could be an interesting one to see where he stands, I guess. But I would imagine the club's going to hold off right until the very end of the next couple of weeks before doing anything with him. Because I wouldn't imagine he'd be potentially, I guess, a trade option.
No.
You'd think he'd want to stay in Queensland, and I don't know if the Suns are in the market for a small forward. Unless they do what they did with Kitty and turn him into a defender.
Yeah.
So yeah, where would that leave us, do you think, draft wise? Like, how many sort of slots would we need to fill?
So we have to have a maximum of 44 players on our list, and we've got a few retirements already. Nakia, Cockatoo, Daniel Rich, Marcus Adams.
Yep.
Fullerton's leaving. Fullerton's asked for a trade. We've got a couple of guys that may not be offered a new contract. Blake Coleman, Matheson. So we'll probably have only a couple of spots on the main list to use at the draft, really. Nakia Cockatoo was a Category A rookie.
Yep.
So always with the Category A rookies, it's really just a list management tool now. So they may look to, I don't know, Zorko's out of contract, they may just put him on the rookie list. Who knows?
Yeah, that's probably something that does have a little bit of merit to it as well. I wouldn't imagine he'd be putting his hand up for big dollars for one more year anyway. Seems to be more of a club man than a dollars and cents man.
Yeah.
So that could be something that's doable, and that would free up, I guess, some money and a list spot for someone else going forward. Yeah, so I guess it comes down to as well what happens in the trade period and whether we do get any picks in and whatever, and how many spots we've got left. So I guess we can revisit that in a couple of weeks, and once the trades are all sort of done and dusted.
Yeah, and it's a bit hard to say for sure with the rookie list versus the senior list because I guess the club doesn't really publicise anymore who's on what. So when Connor McKenna and Dara Joyce signed their extensions, we don't know if they were upgraded to the senior list or the primary list or not.
Yeah, that has to happen during the rookie draft, though, doesn't it?
They can to upgrade them to the primary list.
Yeah, do they just automatically do that, or do they have to wait for the draft to do it?
No, they can just upgrade them.
Okay, yeah, because I remember years gone by, that's how they had to do it. Was they had to give up a draft pick for them. But yeah, I hadn't really paid attention to that in recent years.
I don't think that is the case anymore. I think they can just upgrade, but it's in the past, like Big O signed he initially, when he first re-signed, I think he signed quite a couple of years at least. And I don't think they upgraded him straight away.
Yep.
They wait till they've done the 3 years on the rookie list, and then they promote them to the primary list because they're required to.
Yeah, I guess, that's another thing that remains to be seen with that, I guess, and hopefully the club actually provides information to everybody to see where that all lands for us. Anything else to do with the draft you want to talk about?
No, not really.
Do you have any thoughts on what sort of players we might or should be targeting?
Well, probably not.
We usually see the target midfielders that we end up putting on the half-back line. That seems to be our thing.
Yeah, that's actually pretty accurate.
Yeah, and look, it's backfired on a few guys, but then a few other guys have actually, like Starcevic, played a bit of midfield as a junior, and he's come up pretty well. And Bailey now got himself out of the half-back line, and he's an absolute beast in the forwards, and when they chuck him in the middle as well, at some centre bounces and up on a wing, he's unreal. So he went the other way. He started there and came back the other way. But yeah, so yeah, we mentioned the retirements. I'm curious to know what Jack Gunston's going to do, whether he's going to play on, whether we have a spot for him. I don't think anybody really knows that at the moment. There's not being a part of the grand final squad probably, to me, wasn't a great sign.
Yeah. Well, look, he could be another one that we just delist and put on the rookie list.
Yeah. So where does he stand contract-wise? Has he got another year?
He does, yeah, 2024.
Yeah, but as it stands now, we can delist him even with time left on his deal and just redraft him. I wouldn't imagine he'd be on massive dollars, though. Can you remember what the compensation was for Hawthorn when we got him?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think it was anything sort of huge, like obviously not a first or second rounder, I wouldn't have thought. So yeah.
Quickly Google it.
Well, the pick that Hawthorn got for Hodgie ended up being James Warple, which has worked out well for them. Obviously worked out well for us with what Hodge was able to do in those couple of years he played for us. Culturally as well, more so than anything else. So that was a win-win for everybody.
So for Gunston, we sent pick 48 and a future fourth rounder.
There you go. So, yeah, and he's probably not on great money. So I guess dropping to the rookie list wouldn't be a massive pay cut for him. You wouldn't have thought. I don't know how that works now. I know the rookies got a pay upgrade a couple of years ago, and that's the thing too. That so the everybody's going to get a pay rise anyway with the CBA. Whenever that sort of happens, and the new TV rights deal and everything like that as well. So being on the rookie list probably wouldn't be too bad even if you're on minimum chips, you're probably still going to be getting pretty decent money, much better than what we get paid. That's for sure.
Yeah, if they're on the primary list and they delist them to move them onto the rookie list, they get paid what money they were meant to get as part of their contract.
Is it right that part of that is exempt though, like maybe 60,000 or something like that, is exempt from the salary cap? Is that correct, or have they stopped doing that?
I can't tell you that 100% for sure.
I know that was the case of.
So I feel like it. I mean, I haven't heard otherwise that they're not doing that, but I feel like they would have stopped doing that because, it's category A rookies. They're not used for really developing rookies.
Yeah, well,
they're just used mostly to move players off the primary list so they can then draft.
We did that with Birchall in his second year, didn't we, from memory?
Yeah, and we did it with Froggy as well last year.
Yeah. Yeah, so, obviously clubs find a way to take advantage of all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, because you used to have to take a player off the primary list to be able to promote them from a rookie, and they don't have that anymore.
Yeah, that's right. So, yeah, when Matt Eagles came into the team, that was when Jack Payne went out with a long-term injury. Going back a few years ago now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all the questions that we got through the Facebook group and a couple by messages that I got have all been covered in everything we've spoken about. But there was one about Taylor DeRay today, which I think was a bit tongue-in-cheek, but I did answer that on the Facebook in the Facebook group. I think a lot of guys during the COVID hubs became mates with guys they not normally probably wouldn't have known that well, and end up becoming good mates and having holidays together and whatever. I know that guy he went from Melbourne to the Dogs, Oscar Baker, I think his name is. He was hanging out with our guys probably 2 pre-seasons ago quite a lot. And then, obviously went to the Bulldogs instead of going to us. But, there was another guy a year or so before that. I think, So I don't think Taylor DeRay is coming. I don't think we'd have a spot for him or even want him. He's not really going to win us a premiership. I don't think he's going to win anyone a premiership, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, the people in the crowd like him because he kicks the ball to them a lot, but we had a lot of guys like that in years gone by. We don't want them getting back. Jackson Payne, not Jack Payne, Jackson Payne from memory was a bit like that. Yeah, back in the bad old days. I guess someone did ask potentially about whether Leppich would come back, but I think he's pretty well tied up at Collingwood, I would assume.
I don't exactly know what his contract status is, but I heard it being talked about on Trade Radio today as well. So perhaps he is out of contract, but I don't see him leaving the Premiers.
Nah, you wouldn't have thought so. And obviously he's got a really good backline defensive group to work with down there. Obviously at Brisbane he would too, but there was a bit of bad blood when he finished up at Brisbane as well. So I wouldn't have thought he'd be an option to replace Jed um, anytime soon. That's for sure.
It's a bit of a shame because he is um, pretty brilliant, just perhaps not as the head coach.
Yeah, he was under resourced a lot as well, and I think when Fagan came along, that was something that um, him and David Noble were pretty strong on. That get the right people around him and get guys that are actually going to be able. You can delegate roles to them or whatever. I think Lepage didn't really have that same support, but yeah, he made a lot of mistakes himself as well. So I want to harp on old wounds, but pretty bad 3 years in our football club, unfortunately for us.
Mm. I
But
think I didn't, to clarify as well, in case anyone thought I was picking on Leper. I think that sometimes I mean, I'm not obviously in a football club, but when I have heard him in the radio before he went back to working in Clubland, I feel like his messaging would not get across well as a head coach.
yeah, I used to hear him on SEN when I worked during the daytime when he was on Jared Waitley's show. It was probably the same thing you heard.
Mm.
And yeah, I used to sort of think that as well. Think, wow, like some guys just make good assistants, and he seems to be one of them.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I guess that sort of covers that. Do you want to talk about any of the moves happening with players from other clubs at all? Clayton Oliver, maybe. I think that one's been squashed now.
Yeah, that was I was getting excited there for a moment that we would have actually something super interesting playing out this trade period, but I guess Melbourne read him the riot act and he's fallen into line, so he won't be moving.
Yeah, they say he's moved in with Max Gawn as well to help him sort of with his off-field stuff that he's having issues with. And I think that's probably a good move for him. Would have been good if we had him though initially. Like he was a Lions fan growing up, big Michael Voss
Mm.
fan. The redhead brotherhood sticking together, and obviously a really good footballer. But yeah, well, see how he goes. See if he sorts all his stuff out. Um, from what I hear, there's about 22 players getting traded to Essendon, which probably is what they need. 22 players. Um, and like that might be an interesting fit for Reece Matheson as well. Darcy Parish is his childhood best mate.
Yeah.
I know they still go on fishing trips together, from what I hear. Both local boys from down my way. So yeah, hear little snippets, but just having a look, I've got a little bit of a list. Yeah, Brodie Grundy's obviously going to Sydney. Um, he made that mistake of thinking he could go to Melbourne and be a ruckman with Max Gawn there, and a couple of other guys, Braden Pruce is another that made that mistake. But a lot of guys looking at Port Adelaide, which yeah, they seem to always be active in the trade period. So they may not be able to do any pick swaps with us this year if they're bringing in Radigalia, Zerk Thatcher, a few other guys as well.
The interesting thing though about Port Adelaide is that it popped up, I think it was maybe today or yesterday, that Xavier Dersma could be traded.
Yes, I did see that.
He had an excellent first year. He has had a lot of injuries in the
Yeah,
last couple of years, but surely the majority of clubs would be interested in him if he was available.
I think I saw somewhere that he was linked to Essendon.
It might help them do a deal with Essendon for the players they want.
Zerk Thatcher's the guy that they're chasing from there.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot about him other than he's got an interesting name.
I feel like it wouldn't be a straight swap, that Essendon would have to send some picks back as well.
Yeah, that seems to be how they do it these days, isn't it? There's never just like a player for a player anymore.
No.
I think the Dane Beams thing with Jack Crisp probably, made clubs think that the steak knives need to be picks, not players. After,
Yeah.
that sort of panned out well for Collingwood, not so good for us.
And they love to bring that up, don't they? Got a good run in grand final week.
Oh, you know how many, like the amount of people sitting near me on grand final day when he kicked those couple of goals and turned to me and go, oh, and to think he was the steak knives. And looked, and I was like, well, we didn't know he's going to be this good.
Yeah.
And we didn't know Dane Beams was going to pan out the way he panned out. But that's the beauty of trades, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. All right, then. You go and enjoy the rest of your night. And I think it's about nearly 10 o'clock here. So, no, it's only quarter past 9. That's not too bad. It's 9:15.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for doing it at the later time.
No, that's all right. That's all good. All right, then. I'll see you.
Okay. All right. See ya.
Bye.